our chairman, Mr. Harris, had got up and indicated that he gave us a state of the county.
Can you say it's gonna come
Oh,
back?
I knew I should have said it.
Yeah.
He gave us a state of the account, the state of the county address, basically is what it was.
He's been known to lie.
And what I took from that, I went back to my office and sat down, and I thought, you know, budget time is coming up, and I need to take that into consideration when I meet with y'all. So instead of preparing some elaborate budget, I've calculated my numbers, and it looks like I'm coming out to be about 1.2 million. That's what it's worth.
Of course you are.
Yeah, I mean, everything else you said that day always seemed to come back at 1.2. I
That's the
thought, you know
magic
what?
number.
That should be the
Why
magic
not?
number, I
Right.
guess. But no, seriously, on the, I even wrote it down.
Nice.
Yeah. On the election budget, and this is, we didn't plan for what's happening to happen, and not blaming anybody for it, but this has kind of thrown a kink in some of what we had already budgeted for in our current 19 budget. So the additional that we're going to have to run this election, and as Tammy said, this election will be just like any other election. We'll have all 13 precincts operating that day. We're going to have early voting as well. So the paying the workers to do that, the rent for the places that we have to use, cleaning them, those type of things that we always have to pay for will be again required for this. But that aside, looking at the 2020 budget, you can kind of go down through there and see the changes that we have made. And this may or may not be the time to discuss the way we changed the way we paid our workers from us paying them the night of the election as opposed to running them through payroll. That's the difference you're going to see in that first line right off the bat is that you see that we're requesting is basically Tammy's salary for her part that she does in my office for elections. And I don't really have a good answer yet for you may, Charlie, you may have already got an answer on this, but I don't know what to do with our poll workers now. I don't know if I was told last year that the law said I had to run them through payroll, and now I'm being told that maybe not. So I don't know what we're going to do with that, and I need some guidance probably from HR on how to handle that.
We'll get HR in here.
Okay. I mean, I'd like to know,
Sure.
just so because I don't want to, I don't want to be, you know, I was told that what had been going on was not right, and we needed to do it the way we did it last time.
I remember, that's what I was.
Right. And now I'm being told that that's not right, and so I want to do it right, of course, and I don't want to do anything wrong. So if she could kind of guide us in that, that would help us know exactly what we're going to do in that situation. The other things that you see in the line items, the advertising, I think Sandy and I had looked at what we had spent in the last 12 months on advertising, and these numbers are $2,100. We had budgeted $500 for the advertising, so we're asking for that to increase to cover the advertising that we have to put in the paper. Now, I've had the discussion, I guess it's been customary that we run the sample ballot in our local paper twice. It's my understanding that the law requires us to do it once, but we've done it twice for years, just so I guess people could have an extra week to kind of look at that. It's my understanding that the local paper will run it once at no charge, but the second time I got to pay for it. So I'm considering just running it once because it's free. I don't know how the citizens would feel about that if they're used to getting it 2 different times in the paper, or will the one time be okay and everybody will, say too much about it. But it would save us a little money if we just did it the one time and not have to run it twice.
What if we put it up on the county website?
I was gonna say, can you put a link at the bottom of the ad that shows where you could find it online?
I don't see why we couldn't do that.
Well, it's automatically on, if you go to my voter page, that's everybody has, when you go to that website, you can pull your stuff up. And it gives you the option to look at the sample ballot. It gives you the option to request an absentee by mail on there. So, I mean, it's just making the public aware of that website. I mean, all the candidates, when they come in, and everybody, people come in to register, we push that website for everyone to look at. So, I mean, there's ways that they can get the sample ballot other than.
And if we did attach a link to our county website, then we could also say that to folks. You can also go to the county website, click on a link, and it'll bring up the sample ballot.
Yeah,
Um,
you're talking about a full page ad there.
It's pretty much a full page ad, yeah.
So you can buy most of a computer.
Yeah.
So, and we had this discussion last year, because we actually called some surrounding counties, and different papers actually would do it free each time, but.
The same people that own our local Times Coulier owns Fannin, and Fannin gets 2 free ones, but our publisher only gives us 1. So, I mean, because I thought, well, they're getting 2, so why shouldn't we? And it's not that way, so.
So we might very well limit that and just educate the public that that's where it'll be. If you want to see it, you can go there, but it will run in the paper like it always has, it just won't be twice.
I think
That's my
that's
plan anyway. I'm gonna see how that, it may get a negative, I may get some negative feedback on that, but if I can justify why I'm doing it this way, then maybe not, so.
Well, one other thing you might want to consider is for that second week, just run a little written thing that says, if you'd like to see the sample ballot.
Yes, county website, or, yeah, to do that. Also, you'll see on the travel and expenses, the last budget, or this 2019 budget, we had budgeted for $2,500 on travel and expenses. That's basically when we have to go to training. We bumped that down to $1,500 this next year because of the elections, we're not going to be having training, basically. We're going to be having elections. So we're going to bump that down because I don't think we're going to be going, there will be some district things that we go to, but it won't be like, they're sending up, we've actually got to go to Savannah in December this year, one last push before next year for these new machines, and so we've got to go to Savannah, but next year they're not going to have anything like that. We may have to go to Cartersville for a day.
Okay, I'm not seeing 1,500, is that?
On the travel and expenses.
Travel expenses.
And elections.
That answers several questions.
Yeah, Tammy, I was gonna let Tammy leave after this, so she doesn't sit through the probate, but, so we backed it back down. Also in education and training, for the very same reason, we dropped it, because of that same thing, we won't be having to attend. This is going to be unprecedented, in my opinion, we don't have the machines, and we have an election in March for the presidential preference. These machines are going to be different, and we don't know what to expect, to be honest. I talked to a judge this morning that's telling me that he's got budget hearings, and he was going to tell his commissioners, look, this is what we budgeted per election the last time, because that's all I've got. But this is going to be totally different. We've got a new company, we've got new machines, we don't have the same group that's supporting like we had before. And some of these things that I haven't even thought about are now starting to come to light, like the printers that they're going to make us have. The ink cartridges and those things are $150 a piece. when you've got 4 machines in each precinct, you start adding that up, I don't know how many ballots that ink's going to last to print. So that's, I don't know how we calculate that. The paper that we're going to have to use is a different kind of paper that's 13 cents a sheet, is what I'm being told. So I don't know how much that will be when we get ready to do that. As Tammy mentioned a while ago, these machines don't have the legs that the others set up on like we had before, so these machines are going to have to sit on tables. We have some precincts that have tables and we have some that don't, so we're going to have to buy tables probably. And the extra person that is going to have to basically guard the door. And I have, I've thought about talking to the sheriff about having, one of his deputies be there for that, because I don't necessarily think we're gonna have a problem in Gilmer County, but I can foresee, because of the media coverage that we've had on elections, these machines are now going to allow you to vote like we did. You push and it checks and you cast your ballot, it's going to print you out a piece of paper that's the size of this with how you voted. So you're gonna actually look at it, how you voted, and then you're going to have to walk to a machine and you're going to have to feed it in that machine, which then counts your ballot. The fear is, because of the media attention, folks are gonna think as soon as that thing gets printed, that's mine to take home to show how I voted. So they're gonna fold it up, put it in their coat pocket or put it in their purse, and then when they get to a poll worker that's standing at the door saying you can't take that with you, in some counties there's going to be a, yes I am. And so I don't think we're gonna have that here in Gilmer. We're probably gonna have some discussion of, oh, I thought I got to keep this. If you don't put it in the machine, you actually didn't vote.
I thought there was supposed to be some sort of receipt or something that they could keep to show how they voted.
No.
That's what they come up with, is you get to keep it until you go put it in the machine to count it. Which, in my opinion, did not solve any of our problems that was being complained about. That's just my opinion.
No, it's
1.2, I think 1.2 would have covered it. But anyway, so what I'm saying basically to y'all is, we've had a figure that we got pretty close to knowing this is what it's gonna cost per election, and I can't give you that right now. Maybe after the presidential preference, we could, or probably after the May primary would be better, because that's gonna be a bigger thing, but until then, we're basically showing you what it did cost. And probably we'll have to come back and say, okay, we had to do this, we didn't think about this, had to have that. So he also told me this morning, he said, where's your precincts? I said, they're mainly in clubhouses and fire stations and places like that. Supposedly these new machines, you have the machine that gets plugged in, you have the printer that gets plugged in, you have the ballot counting machine that gets plugged in, you have the backup battery that gets plugged in per unit, So if we got 5 of those, that's 5 times 5 or whatever I just said. He is having to have an electrician come rewire some of his fire stations just so they can plug up the machines, because they don't have that many outlets. And it's not rigged for plugging that many things in, it's gonna flip the breaker and then there you are. So when he said that, of course, my fault.
I'm thinking leeches that we
Here we
put out
are.
in the bays,
So-
and Gary, did drop cords. Well, I don't think we can do drop cords with this stuff.
And some of these things, unfortunately, and this is what's bothering me the most. Some of these things we're not gonna know until the day of when we start this. And it could cause delays, it could cause people to get very aggravated at us.
I think you should be able to anticipate the electrical requirements, so.
Yeah, once I see what they're bringing us, which we have one upstairs now that's gonna be what we're gonna be using, I can then say, okay, we do have 4 different machines we've gotta plug in. If we put 5 machines at every precinct, then we need to be able to plug in this many things and I only see one outlet. And I can probably go to each precinct and say, okay, we're gonna have issues here, so we need to be ready to do something. So that is true, I probably could anticipate, but my thinking is if I anticipate that it's not gonna work, I'm gonna have to come to y'all and say, okay, we're gonna have to put some more outlets at Leach's.
Yeah, but that's not something that we want to find out on
True,
election day.
true.
Well, I think with us having this election, when they go to deliver our equipment now, that's gonna be the perfect time for them to say, okay, we don't have it out here.
Yeah.
'Cause
But anyway, there's some concern on my behalf on the fact that I don't know, I felt comfortable coming in here last year saying, we're gonna be somewhere in the 28,000 for an election. I can't do that this time. I wish I could, but I can't. 2021, maybe I should be able to say, okay, now I can see what we're gonna be, this is what it's gonna be from now on. But this first one is going to be a challenge for all of us to do. And so I left the contract services the same, and the reason I did that is because, as Tammy mentioned, ES&S, our contract with them was $10,000 for them to do LNA testing, and also they did day of support. Well, when Dominion won the bid and the contract, ES&S pretty much dropped everybody like a hot potato and said, y'all are on your own. And then they invoiced us. And I'm fighting that invoice, because if they're not going to support us, I don't think we should be paying that. So,
David is handling that for us. We
Yeah.
sent him a letter.
I'll give David that to see what he can do with it. But because I don't know what our next contract will be, I've left it at 10, because I don't know what else to do. It could be less, could be more, we don't know yet on that. The supplies and materials, you see a big jump on that one, of course. But in that you have, let's see, I've got the supplies and materials that we normally would have, election day support, buying the ballots, the cartridges, tables, whatever we've got, and I'm projecting at that. And then the rent of some of these places we have to pay rent on, and then the cleaning fee that we have to pay once we're finished with the election. So that's, and in 2019 we didn't have an election, so that's why it's just such a smaller number to end up a bigger number now. So I anticipate that well, I can't, I mean, I don't even know how to guess if I'm anywhere close, really. I'm just being honest. And then the bottom section is the election workers. We took them out of the salary and wages line item that we had them in last year, because we were told that they had to run through payroll. And we put them in another line item, which you'll see at the very bottom, that's paying our poll workers, which would bring us back to you. Sorry you had to sit through the rest of that, but, and you probably have already been brought up to date on this, but last year, before budget time and before our elections, I met with the current HR person at that time and explained to her that in years gone by, what would happen was my office, the night of elections, would write checks to every poll worker, and we'd pay them. We had a set rate per hour, whatever, and we would give them a check the night of the election. And her eyes got about that big around and said, "You can't do that. That has to go through payroll. Taxes got to be taken out." I mean, and I like panicked because, I didn't want to do anything wrong, so we did what she requested us to do, and it's my understanding now there's been complication from that a little bit, but you tell me what I've got to do.
Well, you can do it either way, but the way that it should be done, they should be given 1099, because they're performing service, they're not an actual employee
Right.
of the county, that's the way it should. And it still can go through the payroll system that we have now. We can hire one as a 1099 and pay it directly.
With no taxes or anything.
Yeah.
But does it have to go through the payroll system? Can
It'd
they
be
just pay them that night?
But yeah.
And we
Yeah,
still do
if that's what you
1099?
want, yes.
Well, if I had my ruthers, I'd rather not pay them. that night. I mean, I don't wanna
Because
sit
you're
down
having to sit down and write
Write
a
eight.
bunch of
Right.
checks.
100 checks
And
and
then
sign
it can
them.
go through the payroll system, but not through our payroll, it would be completely separate.
It would be a separate
Yeah.
check.
So if we do it, if we do it that way, then what happened won't happen.
Correct,
Okay.
yes, because putting them on payroll, it classified them as an employee,
Right.
therefore the county was liable.
That's where the
Which I was
Yes.
told that they are an employee, and I disagreed with that, but I went with it because that was her profession, not mine, but
They were performing a service for the county.
I thought the big issue,
They could be paid that, or whenever.
well,
Not
what
if
we
it's
did
through
through,
payroll.
what we did through payroll was it rotated whenever the county got paid, they got paid. Now,
They did that.
I had some people that didn't like that because for years they've been paid the night of.
and I thought that was the big issue at the time, was
Oh, yeah, a
They wanna
lot
be
of
paid
our
right
people.
now.
Yeah, and they still did. When I went to the payroll side of it, they were a lot of them that fussed and fought that because they didn't wanna wait, cause it depended on how it failed. The very first one, payday was Friday, so we had our election on Tuesday, they got their check Friday, wasn't that big of a deal. The next one, they just
They
got
had to
paid,
wait like
so
2
it was,
weeks.
and some of them really didn't like
Well,
that, but.
this, they should, let me find out, or I'll tell you a story, but they shouldn't have to, this being put in separately.
Totally separate.
Yeah, they should be able to run separately and checks should be issued.
It might not be until the
Yeah.
day after
Yeah,
the
yeah,
election
well,
that
they
the
see.
information could be entered and
Well, I
the
mean,
checks could be run.
The day after would be better than 2 weeks
2 weeks,
from.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Or even wait until that Friday, because, you know, I think they could handle that as long as they got paid within the week. Because a lot of these workers are elderly people that, you know, they like it just for their spending money. And then I have some that really need the money.
Do they all get paid pretty much the same, Scott?
Do you have that?
Based on their, if they're a manager, they're 150, if they're an assistant, they're 125, and if they're just a worker, they're 110.
And they being paid like you?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so you know ahead of time.
Yeah, but we have had issues where something happened day of and they didn't show. So I wouldn't really wanna go ahead and have pay ready and then have to void a check because this one got sick and didn't come or
Do
something.
they have to drive all the way in here then to get that check?
Yes.
Or did
Or they-
we mail them?
Yeah, they can be mailed.
Yeah, some of
Some
them
of them was
didn't want
mailed,
them to be
yeah.
mailed because they wanted to get up on Friday, you know, so. But, yeah, what happens, that they call into us first thing Tuesday morning. Once they get set up and they're ready to roll, they've got to call in, and then the girls check off. I have a list of who's supposed to be there, and then they tell me, yes, they showed up. So at that point, once things kind of slowed down during the day, we could get that information to you.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, you know, and it could be ready to go, hit the button on Wednesday morning to send it.
Okay.
Because, you know, somebody could get sick and, you know, have to go home and I have to call somebody else. And that normally does not happen. I mean, you know, that doesn't happen.
It's fairly easy to
So
get
it-
separate from payroll.
But there'll be a charge to our election account for this, right?
There would be ProLiant's gonna charge a processing fee,
Yeah.
but I think it's per check, isn't
The
I believe
Normally
it's
a
per check.
Which
Um,
not employee, but yeah, it's per check.
So
If there's 4 elections and we issue the checks that way, the processing fee for those checks and those 1099s and stuff would probably be for the year, maybe $1,000.
So this way it'd be payroll, but it wouldn't be county payroll, and they would be 1099.
1099, so
If
it's
it's-
just going through the payroll system and process.
Is it
that's all.
1099 if it's 600 or more, or is 1099?
No,
600 or more, if it has to be 600 or more to be a 1099, right?
Or do they get one period?
No, they get one period.
They would even if they make less than $600.
About 1099.
Is that only because it's in payroll or because I thought that if you didn't work, if you didn't make, you didn't get a 1099? Are you saying?
That, It depends, it depends. Yeah, there's a lot of depends, I'll have to look, it depends on their age and the social security and all that.
I think that was another hot topic is if I'm getting 1099, I ain't working.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a
Yeah.
really big thing,
So,
because,
So you can't just hand them the check.
Well, yeah, and that's,
oh yeah,
that's kind of what I said, that I'm not writing checks and handing them out to everybody. Because I, you know, especially after I talked to her and it was like, no, you gotta do this, so, if this is going to be better for the county and for them, then I think I'm in a win-win situation. I don't wanna have to go back to them and say, we're gonna do something that's gonna make it worse than what it was last time. And then
No.
everybody walk out and then we're on election day and we've gotta close down the courthouse and y'all gotta come help work elections.
Will there be food?
We do
Well,
have candy.
the employees, they bring their own food and they like to eat, the poll workers.
Would
like
it be
to.
$600 for a year? So, I mean, at the end of the year, you gotta add it all up, so you don't really know whether you're gonna get one or not. Until you see how much they're gonna.
That is,
Yeah, because it will still be, the information will be there, that way you have a trail, you know, of information.
And for the majority of these folks, if that's all the income they're getting, they're not gonna hit 600. But there may be some, and I don't know how they look at what we would pay them, Social Security, if they're drawing some kind of retirement. If all that adds up to be $1,500, do they get a 1099 on that or not? I don't know, but I felt uncomfortable, well, I didn't feel uncomfortable, I didn't want to sit up there and write 100 checks and sign them. While the election, we're trying to get things finalized, and I'm up there writing checks all night. So other judges that I had talked to said, no, let your payroll do it, so that's when I went and had the conversation. But anyway, if we can do it that way, and the county's fine with that, I'm certainly fine with that. I can even tell these folks that we're probably, you'll probably end up getting your check quicker this time than we did last time, so I'm sure that'll make them happy.
A couple of days, wouldn't
Yeah.
they? If we do it.
well, Fannin County, they do theirs, but I think they do it kind of like what you're talking about, and that might be somebody you might have to call up there and ask them how, because I think that's what Mary Ann said that they did, yeah. But-
So that was all of the line items that I went through. If you have questions for me, I'll try to, some of those line items I've got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thanks.
That's all, you put all on.
Questions, okay.
All right, then we'll hit to the probate.
Okay, that's my, I get to
Oh,
leave.
you get to leave?
Is that your cue?
That
your
is my
to leave?
cue, I'm so excited. It wasn't as bad as what I thought it was gonna be. I don't know what I thought it was gonna be, but.
What make us sound like? I know, we're going for fire.
I told her, she said, I've never done this before. I said, I hadn't either. I said, I went down there before I ever took office and sit through it, and I said, basically, I went